Yo, 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 yo. What is up? What is up? What is up? I go by the name of Arsenic. And welcome to the 4th episode of Fix My Mix, brought to you by myself, aka Arsenic, and Heatmaker. If you want your beats to get their mix fixed, hit up those emails down below. Currently taking submissions, and we are alternating weeks at the moment. So please come and hit us up if you need some mixing help, and we'll see how it goes. Hit us up. Tonight we got DJ Moneymaker. Yo, 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 yo. Yo, just waiting on this song to end and we will get to it. Awesome. First and foremost, I want to say, other than some technical issues, I wanted to give the Beat Chef Live that's going on with Flip at the moment some extra space to breathe. I didn't know Beat Chef personally. I know a lot of people that did. So RIP Beat Chef. It's a tragedy what happened. So yeah, if you were coming over from there, I appreciate it. But yeah, there's not much we can say other than just rest in peace, man. It's terrible. So yeah. We're gonna get to it tonight. I've got, like I said, DJ Moneymaker, Thomas Felder Jr., whatever you would like to be called. Let's get this live shared. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo, yo. Sorry, this is a little bit awkward. Just getting this link sent out. Back live. All right. Yeah, like I said, RIP Beat Chef, man. That's something I don't wish on anybody as far as family and friends that are left behind. Shit. So yeah, anyways, we'll get to it. I was going to do this week a little bit differently in the fact that I'm going to show you all how I was going to set up a session, especially because this was not labeled as such. It's just labeled bounce, insert, such and such. So yeah, we're going to go through the whole process of getting this set up and we'll go from there. So I first got, this is the beat as it was sent to me. I've got a bounce, I've got sample pieces, I've got drums in here, and I think there's way too many drums. We'll have to go through and pick out such and such and go from there. Sample pieces, hi-hats, drums, everything like that. So this is all in one. So I'm going to take these from our folder and we're just going to drag it on in here. I did some investigation work on this yesterday just to be sure. Get tempo kind of set and stuff like that. So I do know that the tempo, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 80 BPM, maybe 81, I think was what I was tapping into. But I think I landed at 80 for my iPad die. Sorry, I have a iPad to monitor the stream and my iPad. Oh, there it is. Stand by. Lots of tech issues tonight. We're good. We'll make it through. It really just quit out on me. All right. Cool. All right, here we are back live. So yeah, we are. I believe it was 80 is what I tapped it out to be. For those who do not know, FL Studio has a built-in tempo tapper up here. It looks like a drum, kick drum pedal. You can come in here and just tap your beats, and get it figured out. DJ Moneymaker, what up? Thank you for being here. Thank you for submitting a beat. I have done, like I said earlier, I'm starting at the very, very beginning of importing a beat, getting everything labeled, and then going from there, setting levels, just so everybody can kind of see that process as well. But what I'm hoping, so yeah, with all this, we can kind of go through the entire process. I'm going to pull these levels down just a little bit. I can see that it is quite loud. I've got this track solo. So this is the original raw audio as it was sent. So let me get my control panel back up here. I'm just having all sorts of fun stuff tonight. And it was 80 BPM. FL Studio Tempo Tap for the win. So we are going to play this, just the raw audio that was sent to me in an MP3. I've lowered the levels down just a touch because I knew that it was hot. So yeah. Just having all sorts of fun issues tonight, but we are good to go now. Pull that level back down just a touch more.
I know.
Yes, D-Live, the kick is immensely too loud. We will fix that in the mix. Oh, you good. You good, D-Live. This is, will be a good learning experience. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. All right. So as D-Live pointed out for me and for everybody, this beat will require some tender love and care. There we go. So this is the beat as it was sent to me. Like I said, that was the raw audio. What we have here is just different parts of the sample you can kind of see playing around. There's a piece there, there's a piece there, there's a piece there, and there. So we'll kind of join all those together at some point. And pull levels down on everything. That's just got another beat kind of in there. So what we have here is our intro a little bit. So we're going to pull that level down. This is a nice feature of FL Studio that they integrated back in 20 or 21, I think, where you can individually gain clips up or down. And it is gain, not volume, because you can see that it is affecting the waveform itself. It is not just affecting the output volume. As I used to tell my students, there is a vast difference between gain and volume. Volume is what you are outputting. That is what is controlled by your faders. Gain is the sensitivity of the mic, or the sensitivity of whatever you are inputting into it. Thereby, if we increase the sensitivity of this clip, you can see that it distorts because we run out of headroom. Do that for most of the tracks. Is about 7 dB too hot. I hope this doesn't give me copyright strikes.
I know.
So if I'm not mistaken from my listening, that is the only part of this that I don't actually have is the female vocal going, I know. I'm not seeing it in any of the bounces anywhere, especially when I looked last night. Cat. But we'll make it work with that, and usually that's just kind of a leveling thing for most kind of producer tags. So yeah, we've got this little intro up a bit. I am going to assign that to track 1. And I'm going to rename that file intro sample hit, just so it's there and labeled. And if I come over here, since that is named, I usually do this all at once, but I'll do it once. So if you have your track selected here and you have the mixer track that you are wanting to send it to, you can assign it, but also it will copy over the name and the color that you have assigned to it. If you click that track and go Control L. So as you can see, we now have our intro sample hit routed to that mixer track, and the color and the name has also come over with it. So yeah, we're going to go through here and get these labeled up. I will probably send most of these sample bits to the same channel, because I'm actually going to, what worked for me last night is to just drag these up, because there is no like reverb tails on them. It cuts straight over to the other sample. So we'll do that. So we're going to take let's see, can I do that from yes I can. Sample 2. sample 1. And we are going to switch those pieces just so they're a little bit more order. I'm going to do... Oh, that's one thing I forgot about FL Studio is the crossfade, but I think I avoided it there. There we go. Sample 3. Sample 4. It's leveled down by that same amount. Sample 5. And this is the kind of boring stuff that we have to do as producers and engineers and all that kind of stuff, but it really does help out in the long run to stay organized and get things labeled. Especially on the import and export. Take that down by 8. Here. Sample, what are we up to? Sample 8? Oh, it was sample 7, but I mistyped it, but I was still correct, so we're going to call that a win. Sample 1. Did I skip sample 2, really? No. This is what I mean about staying organized. I didn't stay organized myself. Intro sample hit. Sample 1. So we're going to open up our mixer. For some reason, my F keys are not working tonight. So we're going to do sample channel. This is where all of our samples are going to filter into. They are all going to get about the same process. They are all going to get the same processing. Make sure those are all turned down. To about the same level. And then we are going to do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. If I was wanting to put these on individual tracks, here's another little tip. If you click the track button, it will send it to an entirely new track on the mixer. So if I had this on 2 and I clicked, I don't want to do it because I don't want to have to go through and reset it. But if you click track right there up underneath there, it will send it to an entirely different track. So sample 1, sample 2. We're going to activate that track. Sample 3, sample 4, sample 5, sample 6, and sample 7. And then I can select all these, and we are going to, if I remember correctly, not remember my group at the moment, but it is group. So now all of those sample chops are into one mixer channel. And to save, make sure that I'm going to reiterate this point as well. For me anyway, when I'm creating battle beats anyway, I like to mix into, and I said this last week on my episode, I like to mix into my mastering chain. But my mastering chain is really simple for beat battle beats. It is. I'm not. I told y'all last week I'm not going to gatekeep the sauce on anything. So yeah, here on my master, I'm going to come over here to my drop down, and we are going to select and Puig Child 670 stereo. I keep everything stupidly simple because a lot of times I'm just trying to create. I am not trying to. Get into the weeds on a lot of things. I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible, and I said it last week as well, where it's the most straightforward thing you can do for your beats to help your mix is to, one, pick good sounds, and then two, level those off in a way that's creative enough and artistic enough, but that you are gain staging them properly. As you can hear with the kick, I see multiple layers of kicks, and they're all hitting at once, and it overloads everything, and you're clipping and all that. So, but for my mastering chain, like I said, I'm trying to keep it as stupidly simple as possible when I'm creating, so that way that I'm not going through, like if I'm going to go and mix it out and track it out for an album or something like that, yes, I will throw it into a more, let's say, substantial, kind of mastering chain. But for when I'm just creating, it is this Puig Child 670, as seen on the screen here, and then this Drew Levine vintage mastering glue preset. That is typically all I run on a mastering chain. Like I said, everything else is going to be hopefully done in the sound selection, and then after that it's done in the gain staging and volume mix, and then you can add effects obviously for various different things, but this is, like I said, one of my kind of go-tos for mastering. What up, Steve? So with that, we've got our intro sample and our samples all kind of combined into one. Turn that volume down just a little bit more. So what I'm looking for here is our fruity reverb. Just throwing a little reverb on this intro sample. And I wanted to hear it all before I'll go back down and adjust this out. That would just hopefully add a little extra air into the transition between that opening kind of stab of the sample and then the actual main sample itself. As far as the main sample itself, I am going to be throwing a compressor onto there just to kind of see where it goes. I am going to probably start right now with the Aphex Vintage Exciter. This usually kind of just adds some oomph to some analog oomph to our samples, but not in a way that's like it might actually thin it out a little bit, which is perfectly fine, especially against the heavy drums. D-Live, to answer that question, I'm adding the analog based off of preference, since this is based off of, that, when did this song release? Mid-80s-ish? It was kind of the era where digital was, if you push it, it was still really dirty, and if you had analog, it was usually a little bit cleaner. Preference, not preference of strategy. How about that? I usually try to attack samples as samples and other kind of things as analog-ish as possible. Treating them analog. So yeah, we'll want to see what this does for it. Another little tip I'm going to do is I don't want to widen it all the way. Like, I don't want to hard pan it or hard separate it, but I do want to add some stereo separation to our signal here. Let's start at 25% and see if that will allow us to carve out room in the middle of the mix for our drums to sit. Because obviously there's some pretty good large kicks that we're going to be dealing with. So yeah, what it basically, it's when you're dealing with stereo separation, basically you're dealing with your left channel and your right channel. And unless you were for some reason mixing on a surround sound kind of mix, you don't have a dedicated center speaker. So what that allows us to do is that, since technically our center channel is a ghost channel, that allows us to, if you're sending things equally to both sides, is how you get a stereo signal as far as hearing things directly in the middle. If you separate it out, you're basically carving just a little bit of a path. It's kind of like Moses parting the Red Sea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve out room right in the middle of our mix for our drums to be able to sit. Because a lot of times drums, unless you're wanting them to be artistically moving throughout the stereo field, our drums are going to want to sit dead center. At least for things like our kick and snare. And then, like I said, you can sometimes get away with panning hi-hats or other percussive or toms or anything in there to a left or a right or something like that. So yeah, we're going to carve out just a little bit of room right there in the middle, hopefully, and see how that works out. Next, what do we have? This is like our snare, and there's some other percussion in here, I think, if I remember correctly. No, this may just be all of our snares. Here's where I can use that trick. I want this track to go to our next new track on here. So we've got our intro sample hit, and then we've also got our sample, all of our samples sent there. For this snare, I want to send it to track number 3, so hopefully this will work. Track 3, there it is. I am going to change that color because that brown is just disgusting, is it not? Earth red, there we go. So for these, I'm going to tweak some EQ settings here. I'm going to make this as large as I can. Just using Fruity Parametric EQ2. I think I said it last week. So what a parametric EQ allows you to do is it allows you to, I don't think there's a graphic EQ anywhere in here. Is there? Let me look under. GEQ. I thought Waves used to come with the GEQ. Could be wrong. Braves are all tied up. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. I could be wrong. Let me see. 'Cause I know I had it. not seeing it, which is fine. So, anyways, with a graphic EQ, what up, Womp? So yeah, for a graphic EQ, basically those are 31 bands that are split across the frequency range from, us as humans, we hear from 20 hertz, subwoofer range to 20,000 hertz, very, very high dog whistle type levels. So there's 31 bands that are split across there, and that allows you to go in and affect that particular band with a set bandwidth. So you don't have much leverage in trying to adjust your sound. With a parametric EQ, with each of these little tokens, as I like to call them for at least FL Studio, we can set this to any frequency along here, and we can affect 31 bands. It's a lot of money. That's great. So with our parametric EQ here, we can affect not only where the frequency is that it sits at, or that it's centered at. So we're going to set it just for 400, just for reference here. We can increase or decrease our bandwidth for how many frequencies to the left or right of that center frequency that we're affecting. So we can either have a very wide bandwidth, or we can have a very narrow bandwidth and only affect a very small amount of frequencies. Typically, I like to be very gentle with it. Typically, I also don't like to I don't like to add EQ. So would be an additive EQ. I typically like to be in a subtractive EQ. That typically runs more so with my live sound experience, however, because we don't typically want to add a lot of unneeded frequencies. Just realized how bad that face cam is affecting my is going through and auto adjusting. Stand by. Turn off auto exposure. Too much. There we go. Much better. So yeah, I usually typically for my live sound experience plus EQ here, I like to run more of a subtractive EQ. So we're taking away frequencies in order to make the sound better. I will, most of the time or occasionally, I will add air up here on the end of EQ. These are the air frequencies kind of above 8,000 hertz. And that will add just higher end kind of sparkle or sheen or air, whatever you want to call them, to a sound. I do not need that. However, what I want to do on this sample for these snares is just to kind of try and clean them up a little bit. So I'm going to solo those out. Let me make sure I'm playing at a place where they're in it. So first thing is we are going to throw on a high pass filter, a steep one, just to allow us to really cut off the sound. There's not a lot of holes. There's not a lot of information below there anyway. You can see it on this graph. Anything that is bright orange on this RTA back behind it, or spectrograph that's back behind it, is where the intensity of the sound is. So I'll play that again so you can see it. So as you can see, as that snare roll happened, you can see the frequencies of that sound shifting down. One more time. So there's not a lot of whole information down here anyway. So we're just going to cut that off pretty sharply at, let's say, 100 hertz. That way it will not conflict anything with our kick. These are also very digital sounding kind of snare roll. So what I typically like to do for anything that sounds too digital is to take a simple kind of notch here at about 2,500 to 3,000, give or take, and just kind of do that. There's my level for it. We're going to go down to just a -4 and see how that works. All right, so this is the raw sound. This is with the EQ applied. Hopefully there's a little bit of a difference there. And then we are going to compress our sound just a little bit. This will also kind of thin it out, but it will also allow us to just kind of control the dynamics of it a little bit. So this is another one of my favorites. It's a two-way style compressor. Ooh, I can make this cool, much more visible. I typically like to use this on snares. It is it can be very overwhelming very quickly. If you really crank it up even to just say 50 on each side, let's do that. It will be too much, I can guarantee it. Way too much. But I'm going to leave that at 50, and I'm going to turn this back down to, let's say, 43-ish, somewhere in there. Wow, I actually nailed that. And we'll see how that sounds. Also on there, I added a little bit of reverb just to kind of get it some air and space without actually having to do anything on the EQ. That's another way to kind of, if you have a very dead sound, is to add some reverb to it, and that will kind of just help get it usually some extra high end. If I remember correctly, this next one that we're dealing with is bass. So we're going to turn that way down just so we don't blow out anybody's eardrums. Give that a play. Nope, I was wrong. These are our hi-hats. Cool, so we can do... Forgot to change the color. I don't like that. I don't like that gross brown. We're going to change it to that red-orange as well. We got to process these hi-hats a little bit. So we're going to take that track, click track to assign it to a new one. There are some very gross frequencies that are ringing through there, at least to my ears. So we're going to take out this EQ. We're going to do a little trick to find the nasties. We're going to take a very tight bandwidth there, and we're going to frequency sweep along here and see where it really kind of stands out and where we need to pull frequencies back out. Obviously, we know it's not at the low end. I think it's probably sitting somewhere in this area, but we'll see. It is sitting there, but I also hear something a little bit further up. So we're going to do a low pass, very steep one, and we're going to take out some of that high-end digital noise that's just ringing in there. So yeah, with your parametric EQ, you can basically come in here and shape these to. You can literally, as an EQ, it's literally a tone shaper. You're able to come in here and sit here and change whatever you like about your sound or don't like about your sound. Obviously, this isn't a kick, but if you want more thump in your kick, sometimes you just got to add a little bit of bass. If you need more or less high end, you can come in here and shape and shave away from your high end. So yeah, this is without EQ. This is with EQ. I think the process is just a touch more. We're going to add just a touch more bandwidth into this. Not that much. Really carve out this sound, and I don't typically like to be that surgical, but I want this to sit in this track. And this is where some panning can kind of come around. We're going to pan this, I think, just a touch to the right. All right, so that's sitting a little bit better. It's a little less harsh on my ears. I tend to think I have a little bit more sensitivity to high frequencies, so I usually try to get them out as much as I can. It's a good thing CRT TVs aren't a thing anymore because they really drive me nuts. So this next one, what do we say this was? This is the bass. 808 style bass. And so this is obviously an 808 bass, but it's kind of acting more as just a sub bass for the kick, if I had to kind of put words to it. So here's a kick track that is. So you're using the kick as the attack of the, and then the bass kind of is this, the 808 is kind of a sustain just a little bit afterwards. Zoom in here just a little bit like this. So we need to assign our 808 to a track. We need to assign our kick to a track. That's what I thought. It is stereo kick. So that is one thing to typically also look out for. What are you? You're the other half. So the best way to kind of think about, and this, it may have been your program that was doing it already, but the one thing to kind of think about is mono versus stereo kind of instruments. And so your kick drum, unless you have it mic'd as stereo, which I don't think I've ever seen, your kick drum is always going to be mono. And so what I am going to do is make this mono. We don't typically need to have a stereo kick, and I can't remember what this one was. What were you? So that's like a clean, right? That's why there's a whole bunch of bass. There's a lot going on right here. So we have an 808 bass, a stereo kick, which is basically acting as a dual mono kick. So you get 100% of a kick in the left and 100% of the kick in the right. So there's a lot of low end because this is, so we have an 808 bass, we have a stereo kick, I have a different 808, and then a different 808. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that? Because that's a lot of, yeah, we're gonna take a lot of that out. Let's see. I'm not super fond of this one right here, this first 808. I'm going to leave it and mix it and see which one actually comes out better. But by my ear, this one, to put it kind of bluntly and weirdly, it's kind of flappy. There's just a lot of kind of grumble to it. So we've got our kick. We're going to, like I said, we'll leave our 808 for now. We're going to take this kick and we're going to make it 100% mono. We are going to and that's fair. I like I said, I appreciate you submitting. There's nothing wrong with that's what I'm hopefully in the business of, helping people learn, but also just helping people fix their mix. So there's one bass in here I like because it's more of a cleaner tone. I can really kind of push that, and then we can kind of shape that with different kind of stuff. What up, AI? So that's our right click. We're going to rename. Just so we don't use that. Actually, that's another layer of the kick, so we're going to hide that for now as well. There we go. That's the one. So we are going to take that level down and we'll add it back with other tricks up our sleeve. So okay, so that is coming through on both of our sides. We are going to call this 808 2. Yo, what up, AI? It's okay. I'll let it slide this time. K. ARSENIK. Can find it right down in. Oh no, I don't even have it down there. Ha. That's on me. So yeah, we are going to take this 808.2. We're going to route it over here. All right, so we are not going to use that 808. We're going to pull its level down and unroute it for the moment. We're also going to make our 808 completely mono as well, just to help. Let's see, is that on the kick? personal preference for me. Again, I'm kind of sensitive to high end. I'm going to take a lot of the high end out of this kick. So we're going to throw on what they call a low pass. So it basically lets everything pass that is low or lower than when it is set, or order at steep 8. And we are going to knock that down. I'm just not a huge fan of clicky kicks. Personal preference. If you want to go back up and change that, that is all on you. But just personal preference on my end. So one of the plugins that I like to use on samples and other things that I'm just going to try some stuff on here is Outputs Thermal, and it's got the wrong name up here now because I reload it just so I can re-trigger that. Output Thermal. So this is kind of a all-encompassing filter effects kind of plugin. It has a large amount of presets built in. Some of them are lightly processed. Some of them are very, very overcooked. And then if you really want to dig into all the details, you click this one right here and you can see all the kind of details in different stages and different compressors and set different timing mods and all sorts of fun stuff. But typically I'll try and live on the presets and then tweak if necessary. I want the sample just to sit just a little bit differently. So I'm going to try just some differing kind of effects and see where we can go from there. Some of them have some really funny names. Noise Biscuit, Error Ocean. Let's try one and see. Like I said, we'll see where we kind of end up. Too much wobble. So this is with the output thermal on. I'm just kind of trying to add maybe a little bit more analog flavor to it. So this is with, this is without. Appreciate that. I hope I do. I currently work in corporate AV for a large auditorium wrong one. Yeah, I work in corporate AV for a large retirement services company for our auditorium and executive level events. And then, but I also went to school for recording engineering and a second degree for concert sound and lighting. And I've been breaking the golden rule. Save, save, save. So yeah, we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to throw output thermal on the 808 as well, and we'll see if we can do some processing there. It's just kind of a fun plugin. Because they have whole bunches of stuff in here, and I just want to add some flavor. Because there's different parts of mixing. You can mix I can mix this track to be completely clean, or I can mix it to be a little bit more artistic, which is kind of the direction I'm leaning towards. Just to give the sample extra flavor, the drums to kind of blend into that and all that. So you can mix in so many, like you can create a track and then have the mix completely change the flavor of the track is basically what I'm kind of going for. So yeah, we're going to see what kind of works on this 808 to kind of pull out some different feel. What I'm trying to listen for currently at the moment is the relationship between the kick and the 808. And then we'll drive that relationship further by figuring out where it kind of sits with the rest of the drums. And then you drive it even further by listening where it kind of sits with the rest of the samples and everything else, kind of like that. So I'm just trying to listen first at what it sounds like with just the kick, and then we'll start adding in more drums. And the cool thing with 808s is that they're typically such a pure note. You can see literally like the set frequency moving along with each of those slides. And so this might look weird. I'm technically taking bass out of the 808, but what I'm actually doing is I'm carving out room for that kick to sit. All of our sub frequencies for that 808 are still living here. from 100 hertz and below. Obviously, our kick drum is going to have information down there, and it can live down there, but I want to carve out some of the room in the 808. Not typically. It does not matter which number you move. These are all kind of, because you can set them to be individually different things. So if you right click, you can set their different types. You can turn it off. You can actually cycle through them using the up here at the top of each one of these. You can set their different types. Or if you come down here and you can turn them. That is your hearing. But so if you right click on them, you can set their type. Disabled obviously turns it off. Low pass is allowing everything below it to pass at the set frequency. A band pass is just at the let me do something else first. Let me set that one, and I will take this one. And I will turn all the rest of these off. So there is only technically one band on this EQ. So I'm going to center this at, let's go 1,000 hertz. So 1,000 hertz is typically what is considered. I don't know if I can set that directly at 1,000 hertz without being. There. That makes Motor City happy. So at the center frequency of this, right now it is currently a peaking, or meaning you can set the peak of it with that, how far the level is. So you can turn it off, disabled. You can set it to be a low pass. So anything that is below 1,000 hertz is allowed through. Anything above it is no longer being passed through. I really should have done this on a different track that actually has information there. Stand by. Okay. Now we're on a different track that actually has the information. So this is with no EQ. And let me make sure that we are only playing this track. Go away thermal for now. So yes, I'm only playing this track. This is just a sample. So if I was to take the sample and I turn on a low pass, you can set the bandwidth of the low passes as well. And so you can get a more resonant low pass, as they call it. And I don't remember if there's an actual name for that one, but you can kind of affect how many frequencies your low pass is affecting, or how steeply it's kind of being affected there. So we're kind of set it to as flat as possible. So everything above 1,000 hertz is now no longer passing. So we're going to be missing a lot of the high end and mid highs and things like that, but we will still have everything below that. Once I turn it on. That is correct. Sometimes it is hard to remember which is which, and I don't blame anybody for getting those confused, AI. So yeah, this is what we call a low pass or a high cut. I typically like to say high pass or low pass just for the fact that it'll low pass is passing along the lows. High pass is passing along the highs. Is kind of the easier way for me to think about that. Yeah, but like you said, they can also be called a low cut, which is cutting the lows, or a high cut, which is cutting the highs. But then you have a low pass, which is cutting the highs, and I get it. So yeah, this is currently a low pass, so it is not allowing anything above 1000 hertz center frequency to pass. So it sounds, we're obviously missing a lot of our high end. Appreciate you. Our next order under here is called a band pass. So that is centered at the frequency. We are allowing some below and some high depending on our bandwidth. So if we tighten up this bandwidth, we are only going to be letting through a little bit. If we widen it out, we can let out quite a bit. We can create kind of a telephone effect with this. So you can see these are going to be the frequencies that are going to be let through. And then we are also going to be boosting just a little bit there too. A bandpass like this AI I would use as exactly as I'm doing it right now as kind of a telephone effect. But if I was going to create a telephone effect, I would also probably have, I would probably do it more. If I was going to do a telephone effect, I would probably do it more as probably get better at talking while I'm actually doing. I would probably set up a telephone effect / band pass more like this. It would give me a little bit more control over that actual center level instead of having to use that bandwidth control, and I can have a little bit more dedicated control on the high and low cut areas. So we're gonna disable that. Disable that. So that's our low pass, our band pass. I've set this one to a high pass. You can see that it is letting through everything high. It is cutting out the lows, so a low cut or a high pass. Again, you can do the same thing here as we did with the high cut. You can kind of affect the kind of slope of the, well, you can affect the slope or how gently it kind of affects those frequencies. And then you can also set the order, which is how sharply it cuts off. I'm going to leave this down there. I'm going to play the sample, and then I'm going to gradually ratchet this up, and you can hear the effect taking place. That's a high pass. We also have a band stop, which is kind of the opposite of a band pass. It'll allow through the high, or it'll allow through the highs. It'll allow through the lows. Don't really know why you would want to use that. Because if you're cutting out that extreme, like it's literally taking just a gigantic, all the way down to infinity cut out of there. It's a little harsh. I would just do that more as our next one, which is peaking, or so you can take out a little bit of those frequencies. If you're really needing to cut all the way down to infinity on a certain frequency, you have other issues somewhere. Like I said, this is more what I would be using where I can... Not sure why that is shaped like that. That's different. That's probably why. So yeah, you got your peaking here. This is where I would affect where I was originally. And then we have two more. And the best way to put these is you have a high shelf or a low shelf. And the best, the typical everyday use case of a high shelf or a low shelf that everybody kind of knows is if you were adjusting the bass or treble frequencies in your car, utilizing bass or the treble knobs like in your kind of stereo, you are basically creating a high shelf or a low shelf, or you are basically changing a high shelf or low shelf and how much they are affecting. So a high shelf can be additive or subtractive. So if we needed to just reduce the high end, basically what it allows us to do is it allows us to, I'm pointing at the screen like everybody can see me pointing at the screen. So we are going, you can, everything above this set frequency and how sharply we affect it, same way with the other bandwidth controls, and the order controls, things like that. Everything above that frequency is getting boosted. Everything below that frequency is now, or everything above that frequency is now getting taken out. Or at least reduced. Maybe that's a better way to put it. The other one is a low shelf. Same kind of thing. If you were, I know a lot of us when we were teenagers and probably even still to this day, we really want a bass. But we didn't have the money for the sub. So we're just going to add some bass to our head units. We're going to, you would basically be doing this. You at a set frequency in your car. You can obviously adjust the set frequency here in FL Studio, but in your car at that set frequency, when you crank the bass, this is essentially what you're doing. You are adding bass there. So back to how that all relates into our EQ for this 808. As I want to see, let me go back to our peaking. And I just want to around 100 hertz or so. I want to clear out some room for our kick to sit. So as I was saying, obviously there is information from this kick that is below the let's see, getting back to that channel, sorry. There is obviously information that is sitting down here below 100 hertz in the kick. So what I'm finding here is that most of the time that kick is clean. So what I'm going to do is by taking our cut tool and then holding shift to make sure that we are staying in line. with where we want to cut, and then also holding Alt to affect or to move it smoothly without our snapping is I want to take this area specifically, and I lost where I just cut. There it is. Oh, there we go. There we go. Hold on. And now get back to our, there it is. Using this, holding B to, or pushing B to back to our brush, is I'm going to take the individual gain control of the cut that I just made and reduce that one single little part where it was clipping. So that is with the clip reduced. Let me put that back up to where it was, which was minus 1.3 with the other ones. So here it is with how it was originally. It is clipping, or at least overloading whenever it is louder than it should be. So we're going to knock that down to by 7 dB. And instead, this is now what it sounds like. See if there's any of those others trapped through here. There's one. So this is kind of how tedious we can make this sometimes. I hate being this tedious right in the middle of everything. However, I think it's sometimes good practice just to see what you can do to get things tightened up. Too much because it loses that luster. I don't know, sometimes the sample got played twice or something along those lines, just something to look out for. Because the issue with digital clipping compared to analog clipping is once you digitally clip something, it's gonna sound nasty and it's gonna sound like that. I mean, you're gonna lose the information that's there. Analog clipping can sound good. That's what sometimes they were meant to be, is they were meant to be driven harder so then you get a certain saturation profile, all that kind of stuff. Digital clipping is usually nasty because once that information is gone, it is gone, and then you're just dealing with the overloaded sound that is left. See, that one's louder, but it doesn't clip, so I'm going to leave it be, especially because this looks like it's leading into a part of a different section. So, no, I am not holding B. So what I'm doing is, we'll use that little end section there as a example. I'm zooming in on where I need to cut. Hit C to bring up that blade. I hold shift, or I click. Oop, not what I wanted to do. I click shift and click to get it to cover a straight line. Because with this cut tool, you can do some weird kind of funky angles. I always hold shift to be able to get the kind of straight line. Since I have snapping turned on still, you can see it's jumping from line to line. To avoid that, while holding shift and your click, also click alt, and that will allow you to fine tune in. So I want to clip it right there. Once it is clipped, and I'm just going to click on the other side of that one just to give us this. FL Studio gives you this little all these different little controls that they added. So you can do a fade for each individual sample, or you can also do what they call clip gain. And so that allows you to control the individual gain of that clip. You can see I can turn it way down, I can turn it way up, and really distort the crap out of it, and that's obviously not going to sound good. So that's, you just kind of click and drag here. The reason I hit B was to get back to that brush tool. So you can see my cursor changing there from brush to cut. And that just allows me to maneuver without chopping anything up. And I'm going to put that back where it was supposed to be because I didn't need to make any changes there. There we go. I'm just going to listen through the rest of this kick track real quick. Just for those little spots, just to... Is FL Studio your preferred DAW, DJ moneymaker? Or do you have other choices? And again, I'm going to let that one breathe, even though it distorts just a little bit, because it is going to breathe into a little break right there. So that'll help punctuate the break. I don't typically like to operate by just looking at the waves, but I can typically see where it's going to happen. Nothing wrong with it. FL Studio is a great tool, and I think I tell people in the last one, if I'm purely mixing beats like this, I prefer FL. If I start mixing in vocals, like people actually singing and stuff like that, that's typically where I will start pulling in the Pro Tools kind of thing. Just because it has a little bit better bussing, so being able to send like a vocal track to a reverb track, it has a little bit better, easier setup time with that. But if I'm purely just mixing beats, yeah, I go for FL Studio. It's quick, it's lightweight. I've kind of moved away from Pro Tools enough just because I don't have a huge use for it. If I'm doing anything like that, I might also reach out for Reaper. Reaper is free. Lots of great courses, like online courses and or resources for Reaper. It's technically free. It's what's the term for it? Trialware, basically. It'll pop up a trial message every time you're using it, but it's all fully featured. If you really want to learn Pro Tools, I don't know where you're based out of. See if your local community college offers anything on it. That's where I went to a community college and took, like I said, recording engineering. Yeah, we had a few different classes that were Pro Tools based. And they're I mean, expensive is relative and I know a lot of people. But typically classes like those are not terribly expensive. Oh, what part of South Carolina? And it's all good. No, this is the nitty gritty that producers and or mix engineers get to deal with all the time, and I have no issues with it. Helps my ADHD. Ain't nothing wrong with that AI. Like I said, I don't mind being fluent in Pro Tools. I never got a certificate for it, but I obviously got my degree, but I never got the certificate. Ooh, hello. Good deal. Where did that come from? I bet there is a track in there that is not sent to a mixer track. And I would be correct. There it is. That problem solved. Apologies if that blasted anybody's eardrums. Florence, South Carolina. Yeah, I would, like I said, take a look at your local community colleges and see if they offer recording engineering or anything like that. And it'll, as they told us a lot of times, we're not going to teach you how to mix, but what they do is they give you they teach you the basics of sound, and that's how I'm able to go through with the parametric EQ and that kind of thing. And dissect the sound a little bit better. They're not going to teach you how to mix or how to mix good or how to mix well. That's not, as they put it, at least at our school, there was not, that wasn't their job. Their job was to teach us the basics of frequencies or gain staging or, this is how we, especially back in, what was it, God, 10, 12 years ago that I was going through school, how to put in a patch bay and, how to route tracks physically using, cables and mic placement and the different styles of mics. And it was all encompassing. So, like I said, we did learn Pro Tools through, they called it an electronic music class. That kind of thing. So yeah, check out your local community college or anywhere around there and see if there's anything available similar. So I was checking kick versus 808. I think we've gone through now and gotten at least most of the where the kick gets a little flabby in the middle of the mix there, where it kind of overloads. So we've got our mixer. Excuse me. It has been a long day. So yeah, typically with thermal, I will stick with the preset until if I really need to kind of come in here and tweak, I will. That's sounding like it's hitting pretty well. We're gonna not use those two kick tracks at the moment. Not use that 808. We're gonna turn our sample back on. Here, turn these mixer tracks back on. Actually, let's do the drums first. Let's get these. And I want to do something else just as a quick processing for our track. So you can, in here, this is where FL, like I said, is kind of a pain. So I'm going to unroute the kick, snare, and hi-hat, and I'll figure out if I have any more drums in there. I am going to unroute them from our master, and then I'm going to send them to, let's say, insert 22. This is going to be our drum bus. I'm going to change that color just so it's easier to track down in the middle of it. So then what I'm going to do is take that. And route them there. And so the reason I'm doing this is because I want to process each of these individually. As you can see, we've done that kind of processing. We've got our, compressor on the snare. We've got our reverb on the snare. We've got our hi-hats with the EQ. We've got our kick with the EQ. But then what this allows us to do is it allows us to, as best as possible, we kind of want to glue everything together. So what we can do is, what do I want to throw on here? I don't want to. Don't want an L2. I want to try something that most people have, which is, and if you don't have it, it's relatively easy to acquire. I won't say any more, but let's go with RComp. Good old Waves classic that got a redesign every once in a while. So we have our RComp, which is a Renaissance compressor. So you can have different presets for this. There's not a whole lot of controls in it to really make it need presets, but such is life. Like I said, I'm not against presets. But what we are going to do is we are going to take this compressor and we're just going to tighten up our drums to kind of mesh all together. So we have the way a compressor works very quickly. We have our threshold. We have our ratio. We have our gain, which is our makeup gain. And we have our attack and our release. This is actually a very good diagram of everything. So our threshold is at what point, at what level does our compressor engage? So we got to play it to see where our level is, and then we can adjust it from there. So we have a very hot signal coming in. So whatever threshold we set is going to be surpassed very quickly. So we're going to, let's say, -4. Yeah, -4. So you can see that we're not, you can see that we are coming in a little hot. We're not clipping though, which is good. Our ratio is once we cross the threshold. So let's say we're crossing the threshold at, -4. I forget you can do expansion with this as well, but so we want to go this way. So if we set it to 2, if I can get it that exact, I don't know if I can. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. There we go. No, it's like trying to get the gas less. So if we set that to 2, for every 1 unit that, for every 2 units that we are over our threshold, we are getting 1 back out. So this is what we call a 2 to 1 ratio. So you can see that it is compressing now. We have our gain reduction happening. Typically for drum bussing type deals. Like I said, I hate to put exact numbers on everything. I'm really wanting to, if it's going above our threshold, I really want it to squash it down. Brave scored. Ronald Acuna hit a home run. Cool. So I'm going to set it to 8. We'll come back to gain. Our attack is how quickly our compressor engages once it crosses the threshold. I typically set an attack as quickly as I possibly want it. I want that compressor to really just engage. I don't want it to wait. I'm assuming in milliseconds, so that's like a half millisecond. Because there's no units actually. Oh, yep, no, it's listed up there in the. So, I typically want it as quickly as it possibly can. Our release, like I said, I hate to put numbers on things. 200 milliseconds typically is my preferred release time for most compressors. That's where it sounds natural enough, and that's once the sound goes back under the threshold. How long does it wait before disengaging? 200 milliseconds, or 0.2 of a second. So yeah, we've got our threshold set, we've got our ratio set, we've got our attack set, and we've got our release set. And so then typically once we get where you hear a little bit of the squashiness is we're going to turn our output gain up. Let's say we'll put 4 there and see what that does. And so basically what I'm doing, or what a compressor does, is it takes the highest highs, and not frequency-wise, but volume-wise, and it takes the highest highs of the amplitude of the waveform, or the lowest lows, and it kind of just squashes them together. It kind of homogenizes the signal, like it kind of sends it all together. That's a good SAT word there. And so once we have our threshold set, which I'm actually going to pull down just a touch more, I want it to sound a touch more squashed. Our attack is set, our release is set, our ratio is set. We need to add typically a little bit more gain because we're taking away the dynamics of a signal, and so we need to add some gain or volume back out of there so then that our signal can be a relevant level as far as output audio. I'm of the camp of 10 to 1. Anything above 10 to 1 is what I would consider limiting. But it really depends on my other factor for a limiter that I consider is not necessarily just the ratio, but like how hard you're hitting it. Like if I typically consider a limiter the last stop in the chain, or the last stop in the on your way out. And so, yeah, if you're limiting it 10 to 1, that's it. Like I said, it really just depends on how hard you're hitting the limiter as well, in my opinion. So like if I'm hitting it at 10 to 1, great. But if I'm only getting, if I'm short, if I'm not really hitting it, like if I'm not really like pumping it, then I don't know if I necessarily consider even that limiting. It's still kind of compression. Like I said, I tend to hit it 10 to 1 for limiting, if not more. 12 to 1, 14 to 1, somewhere in there. But yeah, there's a lot of games to play with that, but 10 to 1 is what I would consider limiting. So yeah, we've got our drums all routed here. Need to wrap up in probably the next 20 minutes. Let's see if we can knock out the rest of this. Ooh, hello. My bad, my bad, my bad. So this is kind of a snap. And we're going to throw that into a track. That's the 808 I'm not using. This is the 808 I am. So yeah, I'm gonna throw light compressor on this one. Just to tighten it up. And then actually with the compressor, it is highlighting a little bit of a reverb tail that is on that signal. It is not much, but it is there. Open hat. Stereo open hat. So we're going to do the same trick that we did on the kick. And we are going to set that to a track. We're going to reduce its stereo separation. We're still going to pan it just a touch as well. I'm going to pan it back to the hi-hat side just because technically that is a hi-hat. All right, so like I said, most drums I treat as mono, except in this case, since we do have two channels of it. I am going to, one I want to see. The panning on this is going crazy, so what I really want to do is just take this as a stereo. Tom 1 and Tom 2, and then I want this one to go to one track, this one to go to the other, and so actually what I'm seeing looking at the waveform or the fader mix here is it's the same track. So I'm actually just going to delete that one and file and default and reset our routing there. And that looks like another tom track. It is. We'll clean that up. That is another 808 track. We're going to clean that up. It's another kick slash bass track. Crash. That'll do. We're going to clean that up. We'll turn that off. So that is 2 different crashes. Cats. But one is facing, no, they're both the same. So we're going to so we're gonna kill the stereo separation, but then pan it so we can still get the actual separation. Actually, go the other way with it, because if you're looking at a drummer. So technically, a lot of times I like to mix my drums. So if you were looking at a drummer on stage that is facing you, their hi-hats would be on your right. Your crashes would be on your left. Toms would typically be on your left. I'm not going to usually pan my kick or my snare, but that's if I'm actually working with a stereo image like that, then that's typically how I'm kind of looking at it. As much as I like crashes, I'm going to keep those. I gotta lock that one off. So let's see. Yes, I did last week. I sent the final mix back out. It'll take me a day or two because I'm single dad this weekend, at least until tomorrow evening. So, but should hopefully have it to you. I would say at the latest Monday. And yeah, use it as you so choose. Wrapping up here, I'm just kind of giving a listen to see where any balance issues might lie. What any kind of last minute changes I need to make. Any other questions I can answer for you while I'm listening through. I pulled the rookie move. I forgot to unmute myself. So what I was hearing is the kick is still kind of pushing the mix as well as the 808. So just kind of playing with that. And that my kick overall level, and since I chopped it up, I'm not going to go back through and individually adjust each of those gains. So what I went in and did was sucked some of the levels out here through the volume knob. And I took that down to 80%, and then that will allow me a little bit more flexibility in my fader. And I probably actually need to do the same with this 808 track. Yeah, actually that's still all one track, so I'm going to actually pull that down to, let's say, -8. And then see if that will give us more flexibility in the fader. And then I was also working on throwing thermal onto the master just for a little bit of fun and see what we can figure out through there. Mix bus, and sometimes there's some decent effects just from routing through here.
so tender, holding me close to you.
All right, I think I'm wrapping up here. Any other questions out there that I can answer for anybody? Just let me know. I'm gonna play through the original bounce that I was sent with its levels lowered and not going through the master chain that I have set up, and then I'll play through my version of the mix. Typically for something like this, to kind of go through the whole mixing process. And the one thing I would say to help anybody sending stems in the future, not for me, I don't care either way. Just get your levels consistent in a general kind of mix that you're looking for. Like I said, mixing itself is an art, and can change the entire feeling of a track. The more that I started hearing this, the more that I started hearing somebody like a Big Crit kind of thing. And so the tips that I can hear for some of this is that I would tighten up your bass a little bit. And I'm not trying to critique beats or anything, but just kind of from a mixing kind of standpoint. I would tighten up the bass a little bit. Sometimes it can get a little bit flappy, and just trying to quell that with, as you saw with the cuts into the kick channel here, just to turn down individual parts. Labeling is helpful, but I can usually figure stuff out pretty quickly, as you saw at the top of the show. So I don't really care about that part. Sometimes it makes it a little fun of an adventure. And yeah, like I said, just for anybody, just if you're ever dealing with a mix engineer in general somewhere else, I don't care if it's me or somebody else. Like I said, just kind of aim for the mix, at least in the bounce that you're sending me, the mix that pretty even kind of mix as far as everything, so you don't get the super exaggerated kicks and bass and everything layering like that. Keep your sessions clean, stay organized. It's just, sometimes I need to follow that for myself. But yeah, so I'll run through the original bounce that I was sent, which I need to unmute that clip, and I need to turn off my mastering effects there. So this is the original bounce that I was sent. And I'll probably give it a minute or so, and then I'll run the full new mix.
I know. I know. I know.
Failing like a noob. So that was the original mix that was sent to me. Like I said, it has a lot of extra parts in it that we ended up trimming out as far as extra kicks and extra basses. This is what our mix ended up sounding like, at least kind of a first go at it. And yeah, if you're ever working with a mix engineer in the future for anybody, give them who you're, I don't want to say like tight beats or anything like that, but give them some inspiration as far as like who you're trying to achieve your sound to sound like. Like I said, this on the back end of things, now that we've gotten it all cleaned up and everything's a little bit more in line, this kind of sounds more like a Big Crit style of beat. And so, because it's got that kind of old, older sample sitting there, some heavy drums, I can imagine this 808 being a little bit bigger. But yeah, just give your mix engineer kind of the idea of what you're trying to talk to, or what you're trying to aim to. I'm trying to think in the back of my head, talk to the camera, and just help them along the way. Typically, if I'm working with a client like this, I would mix it the way that I kind of see it being mixed. Oh, that's loud. I would mix the beat as far as what I would be seeing it. And then typically I would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth as many times as necessary until the client is happy to get a good final kind of mix. But like I said, I typically start with what I picture the beat being as, or the song, or the whatever is being sent to me. I mix it how I kind of see it, and then we go back and forth from there as far as what's being sent or what we're trying to achieve out of it. But so I'm going to play through this one more time in its entirety, and then we're going to get up out of here because it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining episode 4 of Fix My Mix. Again, I know the start of the show was a little bit rough. I was having some technical difficulties, but then I also kind of made the decision with the Beat Chef show going on to kind of let that breathe as well. And again, condolences to his family, friends, anybody else who knew him. As I said, I didn't know him really personally, but a tragedy nonetheless. So I'm going to run this one more time. Salute. Thank y'all for joining me. We'll see y'all next time. Heatmaker's got next week. We'll be back. Going to take us out of here. Thank y'all for joining for episode 4. We'll catch y'all on the next time. Like I said, DJ Moneymaker, I will get this beat to you in probably a couple days at this point, but it will be by Monday. Yeah, appreciate y'all joining us. Thank you. One more thing, like and subscribe if you're still here.